Alright, hey guys, so today I'm going to be reacting to a YouTube video for like the first time, thanks to this guy, Engineer Suit. He also goes by MightyGazelle on YouTube. He's a friend of mine, and he thought it'd be funny if I did a live reaction to a video by Honest Game Trailers. They kind of make fun of various video games, and Final Fantasy X is one of my most favorite RPGs of all time. I think it's the best Final Fantasy game, but that's just my personal opinion, so don't get mad at me. A lot of people hate it, some people love it. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started, and I'll just pause the video every so often just to give my opinions and so forth. So here we go.
From the people who brought you almost all of the great RPGs of the Super Nintendo and PlayStation eras, and Mystic Quest, comes another installment in the classic series, whose name gets more oxymoronic the longer it goes. Final Fantasy X. Enter the mystical world of Spira, a post-apocalyptic planet where everyone's in the same weird cult, where you'll take on a holy pilgrimage to bring down Catholic Guilt Godzilla by collecting...
Hold on. Catholic Guilt Godzilla? That's awesome. He does sin, and Final Fantasy X does look a lot like Godzilla. That's a pretty funny...
by collecting marbles, waiting for your turn, and playing a whole bunch of fantasy water polo.
Fantasy water polo. There's a little mini game throughout Final Fantasy X if you're unfamiliar with it. It's kind of like underwater soccer or like underwater handball because you use your hands, and you also kick as well. They kick the ball. But a lot of people either love it or hate it. A lot of people like bring down the game just based on blitzball, but you only have to play it once throughout the game unless you're going for one character's ultimate weapon. But the more you play it, the more you notice it's very repetitive, and it's not the greatest minigame in the world, but it is a minigame, so you can't really hate on it too much. But let's just keep going.
Slide into the ridiculous asymmetrical zip-off shorts of Tidus, a physically impossible sports star and naive gacked lookalike, pulled from his native fantasy land into the real fantasy land, forced to deal with some serious daddy issues, and some legendary voice acting.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it there because a lot of people don't know this, but this scene always gets made fun of, and a lot of people who haven't even played Final Fantasy X are afraid to play it just because they've seen this one scene and they're just like, oh my god, the English voice actors are terrible. I'm gonna say, you guys, if you guys haven't seen it already, you guys need to look up the Japanese version of Final Fantasy X and listen to the Japanese voice actor, because it's worse than the English voice actor in this section. And a lot of people don't understand what this was about. He's kind of doing this on purpose, the ha 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 thing. He's trying to cheer up this girl who's kind of sad and depressed, and he's just like making a fool out of himself just to make the girl laugh or smile. So it's on purpose. A lot of people think the English voice actor was just a terrible voice actor, but no, this was entirely on purpose. But let's just keep going.
Then join up with Yuna, the perfect Japanese trifecta of little girl love interest, super powerful magic user, and human sacrifice. And her...
I want to pause here for a second as well. Whenever I was young, I don't know when the first time I played Final Fantasy X. It might have been somewhere around like 8 to 10 years old, somewhere around there. But I believe Yuna was like the first video game character that I had a crush on, which is kind of sad to say, I guess, having a crush on a virtual character. But yeah, she was like the first character that I had a crush on.
Her handful of guardians, a stoic sword fighter who's always faking a broken arm, a middle...
Alright, I need to pause it there just to give you guys some lore. Another thing that people make fun of every so often is that this guy, his name is Oran, or Oran. It's Oran. I always mispronounce the names. He always has his hand in a sling. This guy's a samurai, and he's like the badass character of the group. He always has his, his left arm in a sling on his shirt, and everyone always questions, like, is his arm broken? Why is his arm in a sling? Like, what's going on? His arm isn't broken. Basically, he's supposed to imitate the Japanese Ronin, which is the masterless samurai, or the samurai, like the roaming samurai without a master. And for some reason, it's kind of like a myth that they used to wear their arm in a sling, like on their side, and they would carry around a jug of sake. But yeah, that's the lore behind this character. He doesn't have a broken arm. He's not pretending to have a broken arm. He's just he's like imitating the Ronin from Japanese culture. So yeah, that's
A
some lore
stoic
behind
sword
that.
fighter who's always faking a broken arm. A Middle Eastern Donatello who's even more jailbaity than Yuna.
That's
A
true.
busty black mage with a dress made of belts that no one ever mentions. A racist dude bro voiced by Bender from Futurama.
What? What? I didn't get that at all. A racist dude, bro. I personally, like, one of my least favorite characters is Waka. He is very much a dude, bro. But I don't understand the reference to Futurama. He's voiced by Bender from Futurama. Really? I did not know that. If that's true.
By Bender from Futurama. And the Cookie Monster. As you quest to collect all of Yuna's Pokemon.
Okay,
and reach the
hold
end of
on. I gotta go back. The Cookie Monster. Okay, his name is, I think it's Kamari or something like that. This character did not fit in with the game at all. Out of all the characters in Final Fantasy X, for some reason you have this weird, like, anamorphic tiger beast thing that follows you around, and it just didn't fit in with the story whatsoever. He's like Yuna's guardian, or her first guardian or something like that, but it's just very strange. But it's really funny. The Cookie Monster, that's a really good joke.
as you quest to collect all of Yuna's Pokemon and reach the end of your journey,
All of Yuna's Pokemon, capturing all the Aeons, that's hilarious.
where you'll sacrifice your lives to take out a giant sea monster that's also your dad, until it comes back to life in like 3 days anyway.
Yep.
In the most downer fantasy game since Requiem for a Dream RPG. Experience the pinnacle of turn-of-the-century graphical fidelity as Final Fantasy X brings you visuals that blew minds in 2001.
That's one thing that I have to say about this game. I think it might have been the reason why I got so attached to Final Fantasy X to begin with. Final Fantasy X, at the time when it came out, the graphics were amazing, and even to this day, the graphics hold up. If you get the original Final Fantasy X, not the HD remaster, but if you just get the original Final Fantasy X and you play it in an emulator and you rescale the resolution up to like 1080p or whatever resolution you want, it still looks fantastic. And I think that says a lot about how much work went into the details and textures and so forth, and the character design, the character models. There's a lot of emotion in the faces. And that's something you can't say today. I mean, I just played through Mass Effect Andromeda, and there was no emotion at all in the faces or in the lip sync. But in Final Fantasy X, they actually did a really good job. Another thing about Final Fantasy X that I just want to mention real quick. I know this isn't really part of the reaction, but it was the first Final Fantasy X game, or the first Final Fantasy game that had voice actors, I think, like voice acted dialogue. And that really brought out the characters, personally anyway. And it was one of the first times that I noticed that in a video game. So yeah, let's just keep on going. It impressed me, that's what I'm trying to say.
Then uses them to bring you the same everybody stands in a line and waits their turn combat as the last 9 games.
Hey, everyone loves that
Long,
type
straightforward
of combat.
maps that relentlessly funnel you to the next cutscene. A grid-based leveling system with about as many detours as the maps. And a narrative that has pretty much the same objective from the first few hours of the game until the end. In the most linear Final Fantasy experience since... Actually, they're all kind of like that.
I'm glad that he mentioned that. All Final Fantasy games are very linear. You can't really say Final Fantasy X was more linear than others. Some people try to say that because games like Final Fantasy VII had like this huge open world map that allowed you to explore other places. But still, you have to admit Final Fantasy VII was very linear as well. But yeah, some people hate on Final Fantasy X because it's a very linear game. But personally, I like that. I don't know why people hate on linear games so much. Like open world games like Skyrim and so forth are really good as well. But a game with a very solid story with great characters, I think can be just as good. Especially if you get really invested into the story. But here we go.
Get ready for gameplay whiplash as Final Fantasy X's unchallenging rock, paper, scissors combat has you matching the party member with the enemy for the first 3/4 of the game. With gameplay so simple, you only have to wake up when there's a boss fight. Then snap to attention as the endgame suddenly starts hitting you with an actual challenge.
Okay, so what he's saying here, the boss fights in Final Fantasy X are actually extremely difficult. If you're not using a guide, you're gonna get a game over screen like hundreds of times throughout the game, because I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't beat the game because the bosses at the end of the game are so freaking difficult. And it's the same with like a lot of Final Fantasy games. I remember Final Fantasy 13, a lot of people couldn't beat Final Fantasy 13 just because the end bosses were so difficult. You really need to use a strategy guide to play through Final Fantasy games. But I definitely agree with that. The normal mobs are very easy, and then the bosses are extremely difficult.
And you get to discover a true Final Fantasy tradition, grinding.
Grinding, yes.
Experience a wide variety of side activities and quests, mini-games that serve as pleasant distractions from the somber nature of the main story, until you reach the end game and realize that grinding doesn't have to only mean leveling up, as FF10 locks away the best equipment for your characters behind insane challenges that will have you chasing butterflies, catching monsters, racing these annoying chocobos,
I need to say a couple things here. So there's this one section, I think it's to unlock, I forgot whose weapon you unlock by doing this stupid chocobo race. But for this chocobo race is so freaking RNG based, and it's so difficult. Some people spend hours chasing these stupid balloons and doing this stupid time trial over and over and over again. Luckily, it only took me like 10 minutes to complete this the first time I tried it, so I can't really say a whole lot about the chocobos. But what's coming up next?
Chocobos, dodging 200 lightning bolts consecutively.
All right, this part. To unlock Lulu, which is the Black Mage's ultimate weapon, you have to do the most stupid, monotonous thing ever. You have to dodge 200 lightning bolts without missing in this area where this guy's standing in the video. And you literally have to you have to be like laser focused to the screen, and in a split second, the screen will flash, and then you have to press the circle button, I think. You have to press a button the moment it flashes. And if you don't press it in that like millisecond, then you'll get struck by lightning, and I think you'll have to fight some monsters. So you have to dodge 200 times, and you have to be laser focused the entire time. So it's basically like staring directly at the screen for like 10 minutes straight, just like waiting for the flash and then pressing the button. It is so stupid. It's kind of like the jump roping section from Final Fantasy IX, except this is far, far worse and takes so long. It takes like over 10 minutes if you don't miss. Whenever I tried to do it, it took me like 2 hours to complete it. It sucked. It was terrible. I hated that part, but yeah, it's like the worst thing about the game anyway.
And playing way, way more blitzball than anyone should. So pick up your lava lamp sword and get ready for a boatload of fake religious jargon. Because if you like your fantasy with a hefty dollop of Kingdom Hearts-esque existential bullshit, this game has totally got you covered. Starring Meg Ryan, Unibrow, Titty Monster, Waka Waka Waka, Orange, you being kind of a dick, hates Mondays, Cosplay Patreon, and Seymour of my chest hair. Final fell asleep 10 times. Man, that was a crazy game. Only thing that would make it even crazier is if they made a sequel where Yuna's a pop star / treasure hunter who fights by changing outfits.
No.
But that would never happen. Be sure to subscribe
for
more honest game trailers.
So at the end, he made a reference to Final Fantasy X2, which was terrible. Okay, I never really cared much for Final Fantasy X-2. You play as 3 girls who constantly change dress spheres, and they look all sexy and stuff. It's kind of like a fanfare game that's just meant to like tease guys, I guess. But the game is very silly, and personally speaking, it just wasn't for me. I beat the game last year, I think, for the first time. Made a little let's play on it, and it just isn't very good compared. The story isn't that great. That's all I have to say. The end boss is pretty awesome, though. I have to admit the end boss of Final Fantasy X-2 was pretty badass. But yeah, that was a pretty good video. I'm sorry that I paused the video so much. That was probably annoying to watch. I usually don't do reaction videos, but I kind of just wanted to explain a couple points. Hopefully you guys learned something, I guess, if you're familiar with Final Fantasy X. If not, just know that the laugh scene that he played like 5 times throughout this video, where he's just laughing, that was on purpose, okay? Out of context, that looks like a English voice actor is doing a terrible job like translating Japanese, but it's not, trust me. If you take anything away from this video, I want you guys to go search up Japanese Final Fantasy X Hahaha and listen to the Japanese version of the game. And the Japanese version is like 10 times worse than the English version, which is kind of humorous to me anyway. But yeah, other than this one section, the voice acting throughout the entire game is actually really good. And I know I keep trying to like make counterpoints throughout this video. This video did a really good job of like pointing out all the funny things about the game. But overall, I think it's a great game anyway. And even with all the jokes, I still think it's a badass game, and it's definitely worth playing. If you guys haven't played it before, you can pick it up on Steam. You can pick up the HD remastered version, which comes with 10 and 10.2. It comes with 2 games, about 100 hours worth of content for like 20 bucks, or sometimes it goes on sale for like 10 bucks. So yeah, really funny game. Thanks again to this guy, Engineer Suit on Steam, or MightyGazelle on YouTube. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel if you guys want to check him out. He plays a lot of old games, and he reacts to various TV shows and so forth, like Samurai Jack. I think that's what he's been doing lately, and Kingdom Hearts. But yeah, he's a cool guy. He's one of my friends, and we do some videos together every so often. So yeah, thanks to him for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this silly little reaction video, and hopefully I don't get sued by YouTube. So thanks for watching, and have a nice day.